Hello, everybody. Welcome back to a new episode of the Indie Grounds podcast, where we cover all things indie music, rock, hip hop, doesn't matter. We cover it all. And this is an interesting episode because I had written a script for this episode a very long time ago, and I've made a couple short videos on it. And then all of a sudden, a bunch of new information came out about this specific band. Now, the band that I'm talking about is the 1975. And you may ask yourself, well, why are we talking about the 1975 on an indie rock or an indie music channel? Well, initially they started off indie. They started smaller. They weren't such a huge band at first, but really why I wanted to focus on them was because of this huge divisiveness that they have in the music industry. Some people love the 1975. Some people think, you know what, I don't like their look and their message isn't for me, but I do think that they are great musicians and songwriters. And some people love the 1975, right? So there's just a whole bunch of things going around them, and their lead singer, Maddie, which, of course, this week and last week, as everybody knows, his involvement with Taylor Swift came out, and then the fallout subsequent of that. So before we get to that, though, let's dive into the 1975's history first and their background and kind of what led them up to this moment. So they formed as a band in their teenage years, actually, all the way in the early to mid 2000s. They're from Cheshire, England, and some of their first material was recorded and organized back in 2012. So they started touring immediately, and they got huge supporting acts right off the bat. They got to open for Muse, The Neighborhood, even the Rolling Stones. And then a year later, their self-entitled album was released. They opened up for Bastille. They immediately started playing at Coachella, the Royal Albert Hall. And then about 2 years after that, in 2015, was when their second album came out. I Like It When You Sleep, for you are so beautiful, yet so unaware of it. That album topped the UK charts. But notice this in the Rolling Stone, when they did a review, it was a lot more mixed. They criticized a couple tracks like Lost My Head, Please Be Naked, for being boring, melty, but it also praised songs such as Somebody Else, Loving Someone. So again, you're getting that hot and cold take for the band. That narrative is really starting to take off. Now, right when that tour ended, they went back and they made another album in 2017, A Brief Inquiry into Online Relationships. As soon as that tour was over in 2019, they made another new album, Notes on a Conditional Form, in 2019. And then when that tour ended in 2021, they made the album near the end of the year, Being Funny in a Foreign Language, which ironically was co-produced with by Jack Antonoff, which, if you are on my channel, we have made a whole video dedicated to him. I definitely recommend checking that out as well. He's a great musician. But that was their history, right? At first glance, it seems pretty straightforward. It seems like they'd be, boring, not much drama going on between the band members, no huge emergencies or life-shattering events. So, again, the question is, why so many mixed reactions? And again, this is when I had to kind of reorganize the script, because right off the bat, I was going to go into Matty Healy, but now I'm going to save him for later. I'm going to jump to the second point that I had and do that one. And it's a question of who exactly is this music being made for? because a few years ago there was a tabloid called The Tab, and it published a piece calling by a young person calling 1975 the lamest band in the world. Kind of funny. But the author slams the band as performatively woke, their music as pure H&M changing rooms background. And they, quote, went on to say, "The problem with 1975 is they take themselves too seriously, mistakenly thinking they are making some divine contribution to art and culture, when really they're making music for people who cry after intercourse," I'll say. That's pretty, I gotta admit, that's a pretty intense take on a band, but there you have it. You know, like I said in the introduction, that is definitely one side of the argument that we have a large group of people saying, you know, this is way too sensitive. This is way too woke for my taste. You know, I am not going to do that. But it's pretty interesting because you have that thing where you take a look at their appearance as well. And I know maybe I'm focusing too much on Maddie, you know, like I know there are other members of the band, but a lot of people also say that the band is feminine in nature. They're, you know, they're not taken as a man's man type of group, which I don't know how I feel about that one, because art is subjective to each person. The same was said all the way back in the Beatles' day. You know, they criticized their look, how they carried themselves, their hair, everything was criticized. However, this is when the narrative changes, because like I said, I originally had this written a few months back, but now all of a sudden a lot of things have come out against the lead singer, Maddie Healy. And at first, it was very basic arguments against him. You know, he was just kind of seen as arrogant, entitled, just a jerk, somebody who was a know-it-all, somebody who was talented, but that they knew that they were very talented. He was even caught on video a few times being very verbally abusive to a few fans as well. So again, not a great look for him. But now a lot of things have changed. You know, now we know because he sat down on a podcast and he said that he has done disgusting acts to videos of black women being tortured. You know, I'm not going to get too specific into the exact things that he was viewing. He has also used other racial slurs in the past. And now this entire relationship with Taylor Swift, which seems fine on the surface. You know, whoever you want to date is whoever you want to date. But then people have now kind of trudged through old interviews, old podcasts that he's done, and where he has openly made fun of Taylor Swift, and now he's dating her. Again, what people decide to do in their private lives is their own thing. But this is everything that we're dealing with when we are focusing on the 1975, right? It kind of sucks because you're just trying to take the art away from the artist in a sense of, you know, trying to maybe ignore or not agree with the actions that the artist takes, but at least appreciating the art that they are producing. It's hard. It's really hard. And frankly, you can enjoy whoever you want to listen to, right? You know, unless they're saying something completely vile, which again, a lot of people can say that that's what Maddie is doing. You can do what you want, you know. And the other interesting point is, and kind of to wrap up this whole discussion, the 1975 has enjoyed massive success either way. You know, there's no question. They have performed on the biggest platforms. Coachella, they have performed, I think they have performed at the Reading Festival. They have performed on the BBC channels. They have performed on Saturday Night Live. They have performed on multiple talk show hosts here in America. There is no question that they are huge now. And it's really made me think because, like I said, when I wrote this, I wrote that I was in favor of the 1975. I wrote down there's a lot of songs that I enjoy from the 1975. Even a few albums I've enjoyed all the way straight through. But now hearing what he has said, especially that podcast, it's just gross. It really is. And I haven't listened to them in quite some time. But that's really not helping my case to want to return. But I want to hear what you all think. What do you think about Matty Healy? What do you think of the 1975? What do you think about their music? Are they great musicians? Are they just posers? Feel free to comment it, and I will see you all next week. Take care.